1. 7 years in a call center as a very outspoken person has taught me how to elicit reactions in a passive-aggressive way. What I mean by this is, as you all know, it's completely okay for a member, guest, customer to completely verbally abuse and berate us because that's part of what they're paying for. And we have to take it and can't respond in a similar fashion or risk losing our jobs. So I learned to give them what they want. When someone on the phone is obviously attempting to hurt or upset me, and not just a snide few comments but really going in, I'll burst out in tears, full-blown hysterics, just sobbing like a toddler who scraped their knee. Immediately the caller begins apologizing and tries to justify their actions. I've had a bad day, etc. I've passed this technique along to others who've used it successfully and enjoyed it. If you're going to do this, I recommend practicing at home so it sounds authentic. But for me, once I get the tears flowing, it's not difficult to think of everything stressing me out and just convert it into real tears. However, after so long in this job, I've also built a much thicker skin than I used to have, and mean members don't tend to get to me as much. Recently had a position filled in the call center here at the bank by a teller that's been here 5 years. So while she is learning about very specific procedures and details pertaining to the rest of the bank, she is incredibly familiar with the system and general bank functions. So she's absolutely excelled in this position and only occasionally has to place members on hold to obtain information. You can see who's calling on our caller ID, and she ended up beating me to a call from a notoriously mean member who calls daily to question her account and berate whichever unfortunate soul answers. I came to her side for moral support because I knew this member would delight on being able to berate her for not being completely familiar with detailed company policy. And of course, the member begins to ask co-worker about extremely specific, yet insignificant details that she knew co-worker would likely not know. Luckily, I'm able to feed her the answers in just a few seconds of dead air after mean member asks her a question. This is okay for several questions, until mean member becomes irritated with the few seconds of dead air while I give co-worker answers. Mean member raises her voice to co-worker, stating that her time is valuable and she doesn't have time for co-worker to pull her head out of her ass and figure out how to do your job, and then she said something about seeing her next Tuesday. I don't really know what that was about. Co-worker begins to panic and stutter, and mean member of course senses this and moves in for the kill, telling her that she's not good enough for this position or likely any position.
Your kids are probably just as stupid as you.
Mean member didn't even know co-worker has a kid. She was just being as mean as she possibly could. I've told co-worker about my special technique, so I told her, cry. It didn't take any more prompting than that for co-worker to burst into tears. I was looking forward to hearing notoriously mean member recoil and apologize, but I still can't believe her reaction.
Oh God, really? Grow up. What is wrong with you? You're supposed to be a grown adult, a professional. I really can't believe this is the level of service I'm receiving. Do you have anyone there I can talk to that's not a stupid crybaby?
I reached over and disconnected the call immediately, called my supervisor to tell her that I had disconnected on a member, not co-worker. As you might know, call abandonment is one of the easiest ways to get fired from a call center. My manager told me she would look into it when she finished up the case she was on, and to not worry about it until then. That was a week ago. My supervisor and branch manager reviewed the call and decided not to discipline me for disconnecting. They also took the call to the CEO for review, who shared it with the supervisory committee, who then voted to send mean member a warning letter. The letter said that if she ever treats anyone at the bank like that again, we will close her account, which would leave a derogatory mark, which would likely prevent her from being able to open a new checking account anywhere for the next 5 years. She clearly received this letter. Now when she calls this business only. Still a foul tone, but she doesn't dare say anything outside of business-related matters, which is great. And co-worker feels vindicated. I'm also pleased with the outcome as far as work goes, but mean members certainly managed to kill some of my desire to help people and made me more cynical. I'm really hurt by the fact that someone could enjoy hurting others so much. I know there's much more awful stuff and pain being inflicted on others in the world, don't get me wrong, but this has affected me in a significant and very unpredicted way. I've always considered myself an oversensitive crybaby, but I've come to the conclusion that any call center representative has to be extremely thick-skinned to be berated and verbally abused day in, day out. You're doing a public service by allowing frustrated people to take their pain and anger out on you. It's not right. But never doubt how valuable you are to the world, because I know it can be really hard to believe that in this position. This is an understanding and supportive community, and anyone hearing this can message me anytime to talk. 2. I work in a call center for a major insurance company in the US. A bit of context. Around late spring, early summer 2019, our call center finally started upgrading the main systems in our computers from Windows 7 to Windows 10. We have two systems, the main system of the center, where you clock in, and then the specific system for the company, where all the transactions are run. The first system was the one being upgraded, and the second system was still on Windows 7. You can imagine some of the technical issues that we were having. The technical issues did not cause my caller to request my supervisor, but they did exacerbate the situation. A bit more context. Whenever someone asks to speak to a supervisor, we as agents still have to try to retain and de-escalate the situation. Sometimes this does work. I'm decent at de-escalating, but sometimes, well, you know. If it escalates, we have to collect as much information as we can. The beep comes through, and I give the standard greeting and ask how I can help.
This is demanding caller, Melodia Violin. You are going to put me through to your supervisor right now.
Okay, well, what's going on that I can't help, and it has to go to my supervisor immediately? As I'm asking, I'm pulling up his billing, any sort of documentation that other reps before me have left on his account, any correspondence that we've sent out to him, as well as checking policy transaction history, just to see if the issue originated there. I'm not seeing any indicators anywhere on his account as to why he's so escalated.
I'll tell the supervisor, just put me through right now.
Well, he's asked for a supervisor twice now, and that's the requirement of escalations, so I request that he please hold and get Frazzle's supervisor's attention and let him know the situation. This guy came through demanding to speak with the supervisor, and he's refusing to tell me anything about the situation. There's no documentations of any sort of issues, his bill is not past due, nothing in the correspondence indicates any sort of issue. He just refuses to speak with me.
Okay. Let me go pull up my system. In the meantime, try to go back in there and get any sort of information that you can.
I give my supervisor a thumbs up. Usually, if they know a supervisor is on the way, sometimes a person may be a little more talkative, and I can de-escalate. Okay, sir, I've put in your request for a supervisor, and he's getting his system pulled up right now. In the meantime, I've been looking over your account as well, and I'm trying to at least get some information for the supervisor. Can you give me an idea of what's going on?
I don't feel like discussing it with this simple representative. I told you, I'll tell your supervisor.
Very well, let me check and see if he's ready. And here's where those lovely technical issues that I was mentioning earlier came to bite. Whenever I tried calling Frazzle's supervisor's extension, one of us could not hear the other. Sometimes the call wouldn't go through at all. Sometimes the caller's profile wouldn't come up. If I remember correctly, Frazzle's supervisor had to restart his whole computer 4 times in order for everything to finally work. The policy that we have with hold times is that we have to check back in with the caller every 3 minutes, 4 at the absolute max, to let them know that we're still here, and this whole process took around 30 minutes. And this guy was the type of person to count exactly how long he's been on hold. So you can imagine, 30-minute hold while Frazzle's supervisor tried to tinker with his system to take over the call. Me having to go back into the call every 3 minutes to thank the person for waiting and apologize for the longer than expected hold times. And the person refusing to allow me to handle the situation and berating me for taking so long to get the supervisor on the phone. Finally, Frazzle's supervisor's system pulls up properly to where we can both hear each other, and I'm able to transfer the guy to Frazzle's supervisor. Oh, and do you want to know the issue that was so bad that a little rep like me wouldn't be able to help the guy at all? Renewal caused his monthly bill to go up $4 whole. Usually the supervisors don't get back to the original agents about the calls they take over, unless there was a major issue with the agent, but I guess this reason was just too good for Frazzle's supervisor to not tell me about it. Also, apparently as soon as I dropped off the line, the guy had started slandering me about being unprofessional, unwilling to help, and also complaining about the long wait time. Frazzle's supervisor decided he had to tell me his response. "Sir, you were the one who wouldn't tell her what the issue was and insisted you wait for a supervisor despite the longer wait. If you had told her the problem, Melodia Violin would have had your answer and a solution within 2 minutes." 3. I worked in 2 call centers, a big bank in the fraud claims department, and a retirement account company. I bet many of you who have worked in call centers hear it all the time. "I'm going to sue you and the company." Which our general response is, okay, go ahead. 99.9999% of the time, it's just a smokescreen and a customer needing to vent out to hopefully get something done. But that one time when someone actually does do legal proceedings is eye-opening. Here's what happens. A customer, we'll call him Billy, and I notice he has a high bank account balance, but not a member of the wealth management team. Whenever we get one of these wealth management callers, we must immediately transfer them to the wealth fraud department. So Billy calls in on Friday saying he experienced fraud on his bank account. Okay, sounds like a routine call. I file the claim for about $2,000. System gives him temp credit, the card is blocked. I refresh the screen to make sure the card is indeed blocked, a new card is issued, and I make my notes. Simple enough. However, next day, a coworker calls me over to her desk. It's Billy, and he's calling back again. He has more fraud on his account. Now the fraud is up to over $7,000. I'm thinking, oh shit, did I forget to block the card? I immediately look over everything, and all procedures were done by the book. To make matters worse, fraud was happening on Billy's account as my coworker was on the phone talking to him. I can hear him be irate and how he has lost trust in us. She blocks the card again, refreshes the screen, and the card is shown blocked. She reassures Billy that his card is now blocked. Then, by accident, my coworker refreshes the screen. The card is now unblocked. What the fuck? And then she makes matters worse by saying, "Uh-oh," without muting her headset. This sets off Billy again, and he goes off on how hard he's worked for his money and how he's trusted us for 30+ years. I'm thinking she might have forgotten to block it, so I stay by her and watch her block it again. She refreshes and the card is blocked. We waited a minute or two and she refreshes the screen. The card is unblocked. I rush over to go tell the manager what is going on Billy's account, but before I could even say something, I am told to get back to my cubicle ASAP. The queue is now ridiculously long. Call after call, people are now experiencing fraud on blocked cards. And that's when I noticed. There's a glitch in the system that is unblocking blocked cards. I'm concerned and freaking out, so I ping my manager and inform him what's going on. All he says is, "Okay." I can hear my coworker still talking to Billy, and then she pings me saying he's threatening legal action. Immediately, we have to transfer the call to the escalation team when a customer threatens legal action. Just before my shift is over, an email is sent out by IT, confirming that there is a glitch in the system and cards are being unblocked. The course of action is to continue to file claims as usual and assure customers that all fraud claims will be resolved and cards will be blocked when the system is updated. I thought that was the end of it. 2 weeks later, my manager pings me and my coworker to come to his cubicle. We go to him, and then he walks us to a mini conference room. He tells us to have a seat. He picks up the phone, dials a number, confirms he's connected, puts it on a speaker, and walks out. My coworker and I are now talking to the bank's legal team, fraud escalations, QA, IT, and HR. Without mentioning the customer's name, legal informs us a customer has filed legal proceedings, and they have to do due diligences and are interviewing everyone involved in the issue to get the facts of what happened. After my coworker and I give our statements, we are told to disconnect. I left the bank a month later and never found out what happened. I asked my friend who still worked at the bank to ask the co-worker, but they didn't say much. It was the only time I ever spoke to those divisions of any company for this type of matter. 4. So, some background. I worked at a call center for rural ISPs providing Tier 1.5 tech support. I was only trained on Tier 1, but was working my way up at the time and was the company's golden child at the time. I always got handed the most difficult calls because I enjoyed angry customers. Sounds weird, I know, but whenever I'm being called names and the like, I always smile. When customers are super nice, I actually get anxious. Anyways, at this particular call center, one of our biggest clients, out of like 250 different ISPs, paid more than half of their total earnings a year. They were the big boy we had to please and make happy. I had personally worked with the company owner in solving many of her issues, and she often asked for me to solve random issues. Her brother, on the other hand, a big, racist, sexist asshat. Her brother would call our call center for issues that we did not support or could not fix, but the company wanted to please our biggest spender, so we at the center got the brunt of it. This guy would call in, and if you sounded anything but white, would yell whatever racist slur he thought you sounded like. True asshole material right there. If you are a woman and you answered, he would ask you to bring him over to someone who knew what they were doing. Real swell guy, right? Anyways, he had a virus on his computer or something, and he wasn't able to log into his PC. Half his buttons were missing, and he couldn't do anything with it. Something we definitely didn't support. After a full night of this guy calling and getting literally everybody in the room, I wound up calling his sister because I'm bad and make friends with clients. And try to figure out what to do. She literally told me to berate him back and call him the worst names I could think back at him till he listened. I told her there is no way that my company would let me get away with that, and she more or less said, I'll let them know that you know how to handle it, just not to interrupt you. Me being me, I told my boss what she told me, instead of letting her plan it. I kid you not, my boss was like, are you going to do that? Because I always came off as really quiet and timid. I was struck that he didn't outright say no, and I said, yeah, I'll be fine. That night, when I assumed he got off work or something, he started calling. The supervisor on the shift was instructed to let me have the main office so I could deal with the call. I moved in there, closed the door, and he was then redirected to only me. Me and him had a history. He hated me. Mostly because I was the only person there who had in the past talked down to him. The first few times he called to try to get someone else kinda went like this. Thanks for calling, my name is Foxy Boxy, how can I help you? He immediately hangs up, calls again. Hi Jeff, it's me again, how can I help you? He yells profanity at me before hanging up, then calls again. Jeff, you're only going to get me. What can I do to help?
I want to talk to your supervisor.
Right now I am the supervisor.
Look here, you piece of shit. I will come down there, shove a rocket up your ass, and send you to the moon.
Sure, when you stop being a pansy, so what can I help you with? He half interrupts me.
What did you call me?
You heard me, now how can I help you?
I'm not accepting help from someone like you.
He meant a woman with that statement, or just me in general. Well, I'm all you're gonna get, so please tell me your problem so we can solve this and move on with our day. He became a little more cooperative at this point, but not much. Come to find out he had done a big dumb and trusted an internet scammer who he let onto his PC with ransomware. So half of his PC was just messed up. I felt confident I could fix the issue, but it would take a while. At my place of employment, at the time, they allowed us to fix things we were not authorized to fix if it was for relations or other random reasons. Well, I could possibly fix this for you, but it's going to take a long time. We're looking at least 4 or 5 hours.
That's fine. If you're capable of it, you can log on to my PC and fix it, right? You know how to do that.
Yes, but I'll need you to be at your computer also. This was a lie. but I wanted to waste his time if he was going to make me go above and beyond my pay grade. He curses at me a lot.
I don't want to wait for your dumb ass to do your job.
Then there's nothing I can do.
Bullshit, you're just being a woman and demanding attention,
he goes back to cursing. At this point, I just rip into him, but politely. If I'm a woman, and that makes me lesser than men, and you can't even fix your own PC, and I can, does that make you lesser than me? Jeff is back to cursing and is more livid and just getting louder. So I screamed back at the top of my lungs. Do you want your fucking problem fixed, or do you want to keep being a racist, homophobic bitch and circle-jerking each other with insults?
Fuck you!
Ends call. 15 minutes later, hi Jeff, it's me again, how can I help you?
Fine, just fix my damn computer, okay?
It turned out to be a 7-hour call of me slowly going into his root files and pretty much building his stupid OS system back together. When I left that room, some people were still there. We did 12-hour shifts, 3 days a week, and everyone stared at me, and the supervisor just said, "You know these walls are paper thin in here." I just said, "Sorry for yelling," and he replied, "I'm just sad I wasn't the one who could have called him names." After work, a lot of us got food and celebrated Fuck Jeff Day. 5. This happened almost exactly 1 year ago. At the time, I worked as a licensed broker for a large financial services company. I assisted clients with their self-directed brokerage accounts for buying and selling shares of stock, options, and other securities. Specifically, I would help with questions, problems, and complaints related to trading and investments, with some more traditional customer service sprinkled in. Some background on what happened a year ago for those who may not follow financial news. As the country and world started to comprehend the economic impact of COVID and our countermeasures, the stock market fell off a cliff. From late February to late March, around 35% of wealth in the market disappeared, with some companies losing considerably more value. This is staggering in scale and in speed. Some education for anyone who may want to be actively trading stocks. There are a few ways in which one can place an order to buy or sell shares. In this case, the client's order was to sell. A market order is essentially sell ASAP at the going price. A stop allows you to enter a stop price. This order will not go through unless the price of the stock drops to the stop price you entered, at which point the order will be filled immediately at the market. Think of it as a way to lock in gains and sell before incurring further loss. In theory, there are risks which become apparent during rapid price decline. When the market crashes in such a fast, significant way, the changes in price are not limited to market hours. Most of the movement will occur while the market is closed. People, read very large investors, run their models and make decisions which can materially change what they determine is the fair value. Therefore, the going rate for a share at market open can be dramatically different from where it closed. You can see where this is going. Can't remember the exact numbers, but these are close, pre-split. Client called in irate. Overnight, Apple had fallen around $70 per share, from around $300 to $230. Hello?
How the fuck is this possible? You can't fuck me! You always screw up orders! I swear you're trying to get the worst possible price for me!
Let me take a look. Is this regarding the sale of Apple?
Yes, how is it possible for the sale to go through at $230?
I see a stop price of $290. It opened at $230, so it executed immediately at $230.
How can it drop that far? Why is the price not continuous? I know you guys just get the worst price possible.
In order for you to sell, someone has to buy. The price you got is exactly the opening price. Your order was filled at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and at the correct price.
But I put in a stop price at $290.
A stop order does not guarantee price, it just acts as a trigger. The first trade after dropping below your price was the first trade this morning, at the price you received. There has to be a buyer for you to sell. No one is buying above $230.
No, this is bullshit. You can't do that. I want to talk to a manager.
I can get a manager, it will change nothing. The order was filled exactly, and I mean exactly according to your instructions. The manager will see this and tell you the same thing. This is a self-directed account. You are responsible for decision-making on your account. This center, our website, and many other sites can answer questions you have about a variety of topics. Some swearing, and then they hang up. I don't know if he bought back in. If he didn't, he missed out on much more as the market bounced back. Moral of the story: learn about investing before dumping your life savings into the market. It often is a great life decision, especially in the long term, but mistakes can really burn you. Thanks for listening. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Please Hold number 10. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. What day is this? Monday. Okay, lovely. Took me a minute to work out what was going on in that last story, but I think basically, if I'm understanding correctly, the stop price is like the trigger price, so if it's that price or below, it sells to stop you losing more money. I think that's what I'm taking away from that there. I've never invested in stocks. It's something I occasionally think about, but it's always seemed very daunting to me. Well, I'm sure we all fantasize about getting in on the ground floor of a business, buying up a bunch of stocks, then making a mint. Maybe a mint-making company. I want mints now. Okay, anyway, with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.